And welcome back to the second segment of our show. As we mentioned from the onset, we would have a discussion this morning based on recent developments in the House of Representatives once again. This time around, however, it has to do with the decriminalization of certain quantities, small quantities of marijuana. That being said, we have on set with us this morning none other than Clinton Pulu Lightburn. He is a member of the Marijuana Decriminalization Committee.
No, I'm not.
You're not.
Jeremy Spooner.
I stand corrected.
Let me tell you why I'm here. I actually took up the advocacy for decriminalization of marijuana. And in 2012, I think it was, I did lectures and debates at all the relevant tertiary institutions in the country.
You're an advocate?
Yes, I'm advocate at the University of Belize, St. John's College, and I've been doing that. I've been making my rounds on the talk show, and more so than an advocate, trying to educate people about marijuana, because we seem to be there seems to be a lot more questions than answers.
Yeah.
All right. We also have with us Jeremy Spooner. He is the member of the Marijuana Decriminalization Committee. Good morning, Mr. Spooner.
Morning. And I'm here as Jeremy Spooner, not as the representative of the committee.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
We also have Fermin Olivera, and he has been on the set with us multiple times covering different issues. Today, he'll be here discussing the pros and cons of this particular direction.
And the study that you've done with drug use. And you're always a social worker, no matter where you are, right?
That's right.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning
and
to you
thank
guys.
you for being here. And I have to tell you, just since Friday till this morning, this has been the hot topic of conversation across Belize. I kind of balanced out with Harvey, I would say.
Harvey? Who's that?
Harvey.
Man, I've been so busy the last 5-6 days with this topic.
You don't got time for Harvey.
I've been dealing with Mary Jane. I've been hanging out with a girlfriend.
I think Harvey take a smoke and in the chill right now.
Yeah, Harvey said we don't need to go there again. But let's talk about the recent development. And one of the things I really want to start the conversation off with is to provide absolute clarity to the Belizean public. Decriminalization is not legalization.
That is correct.
And we need to start off there and to talk about exactly what the difference is, right? So let's have you take that one. We have taken a move to decriminalize a small portion of marijuana, right?
That's right. Actual fact, the committee was formed in 2012 in March, and the government asked, they wanted to get a wide selection of people from the community, professionals, people who, they didn't say specifically people who smoke, but just a wide section of society to conduct interviews, to talk to different organizations about their concerns about marijuana, because I believe government was thinking of decriminalizing it. Decriminalizing means just taking the criminal offense. It's not a criminal offense anymore to be smoking marijuana. And they wanted to come up with the amount.
Yeah.
Okay, and they came up with the 10 grams. And it does not mean that it's legal. You can still be stopped if you're smoking marijuana. The thing is that they've now proposed that if you're caught with 10 grams or less, that you will not get a record anymore. It will not. You don't have to go to court. But on their first offense, nothing will happen, but consecutive offenses, you'll be issued fines. And if you continue, then that you will also need to take an education program to tell you about what marijuana is all about and so on. Also, the same thing on your private premises and so on. It is still illegal to smoke there. It's just that if you're caught with 10 grams, which I think roughly is about 10 joints, right? I think, if I remember rightly, 10 joints.
That must be like
I think I made a joint. Just a size what it looks like.
So I hear a lot of noise out there that people think that, oh, now they can walk on the street, or they can, you know, as long as they have 10 grams, that nothing going to happen to them and so on. It's just decriminalize that amount.
Yeah.
And you're not going to go to prison. You're not going to go to get any record, which has destroyed a lot of young lives. People who are, when they were young, I think Marlene getting nervous over there.
I'm only checking.
Yeah.
All right, here you are. This is what a joint look like. So it's 10 of these. All right, so this is what a gram would look like. Okay, so 10 of these is what 10 grams is, 10 joints.
And actually, that's quite a lot.
Yeah, this is a big joint.
Yeah.
Normally, so a gram would be the average person might get 2 joints out of this.
Yeah.
So out of an ounce, it depends on what kind of smoker. I just use the analogy. If you're an outside smoker, you'll probably get maybe up to 20 joints. So outside smoker, I'll get 10.
Now, I think this is based on, let's say, the pack of cigarettes, right? Would have roughly 10 or 12 sticks in there, so to speak.
Yeah, one half pack of cigarette with 10 cigarettes. That's a gram.
Okay.
That's 10 grams. That's 10 grams.
Okay.
So, one good analogy. Yeah, good. Yeah, 10 good. Yeah, it's 10 grams.
But if you look at the Jamaican artists when they smoke that big spliff. I mean, that thing's about that long and about that.
And the difference between the pack of marijuana, if you had 10 joints of marijuana and 10 cigarette, you're looking at marijuana has 400 medicinal properties, while tobacco, which is cigarette, has over 4,000 poisons. That's why I have this question to the public. Why is it that cigarette are legal and marijuana is illegal?
I think, wouldn't it go back to somewhere in our history where the economics of it was weighed for the pros and cons and trying to save the tobacco industry then? I've heard that argument.
That's what it was. Listen to me. If you notice, this was way back in the colonial days. They did it. The worst case of this tobacco infusion was in Hong Kong with the British. I saw a movie when I was a kid called 55 Days in Peking. The British actually forced tobacco upon the Chinese. If you are like, Chinese man only got one weakness, cigarette. You ever think about Chinese man not eat junk, they eat perfect, they're not fat, they're very healthy. Well, their weakness, they can't get away from that cigarette. That's their legacy from colonialism.
I want to bring Fermin here into the conversation because Fermin, you have actually taken a look. You've taken a look at the use of drugs within this country, and it includes actually tobacco and alcohol. Let's just do a quick recap of what the major findings were.
Okay, well, let me start by when I haven't seen the amendment in any great detail, but first of all, I think it needs to be stated that the regulation is intended for people of adult age. I am thinking.
That is correct.
It's not for
children. Like tobacco and cigarette.
No, what we did a study in 2012-2013 that showed that people are in fact in Belize, and this is a little bit unique to Belize, that our use or experimenting with marijuana is second only to alcohol. And that is very different from what we see in the Caribbean and also in Central America, where the drug of choice for adolescents getting into this is cigarettes. Now, alcohol is first, cigarettes marijuana is second, and third is tobacco. Okay, so we're using drugs. They are using drugs. What the data showed is that people that started with marijuana tend to continue using it. It's not a big amount that does it, but they continue to use it. As opposed to tobacco, there is a big drop. It falls out of favor with users. Alcohol is the other one. People fall out of favor. However, because the levels are so high, the number of people doing it is so high, it really outweighs the other drugs that people are using. Now, there are cultural factors, the use of alcohol for us in celebration, those kinds of things. So that's one of those situations. Now, I must say that on a personal note, I think the amendment, I like the intent, because I think the intent outweighs the consequences to our population, to our young people that are harassed, imprisoned, marginalized for the use of. I think it's way better to work with somebody that's using marijuana, even if it's young or otherwise, outside of a system rather than criminalizing. I think Pulu talked about it a little bit, about cigarettes being legal. Well, I would like to see it going in that direction, and there are some reasons why. I'm not saying that I'm an advocate for people to use. There is always a trade-off. This is not a everybody wins. But I think the policy direction to decriminalize it outweighs I mean, it's more beneficial than criminalizing it because it hurts people more.
And I'm glad you brought that up because I think it's important to look at the intent. You were mentioning it a bit, Jeremy, the intent that was expressed in even considering this path and now starting the process towards it. We have a number of young men in our country who are caught with small quantities of marijuana, who are dragged through the legal system, end up in jail, or are still awaiting their court case.
Not only that,
they get a record.
That was the next point.
But if you just get arrested, once you're in the court system, if they just get arrested and not even charged, it's almost impossible to get a visa to the United States.
Well, and for jobs as well.
And jobs and well. And the irony of it is you got some drunks running those departments.
And this is part of the reason that was given as to why government was looking at decriminalization of marijuana. Recently, the statistics from the prison showed that it was over half of the population were there for marijuana-related offenses.
Yeah. I just wanted to say something because a lot of things that, especially the right wing, the religious right wing, is this gateway subject. I was surprised that Fermin, when he said what he just said, when he told me that instead about people start off first with alcohol, then go to marijuana and cigarettes, tobacco. In my days, it was different. I think the change is due to the fact that tobacco is so negative now, and with the thing with cancer and all that. We used to smoke cigarettes. Yeah, I started off with cigarettes. Then I went to alcohol because my parents drank and all my parents' friends drank and
smoked cigarettes.
And then I went to marijuana after that. So it wasn't marijuana first, you know. And then I went on to cocaine and heroin and all that. That's a load of bull. I started off with cigarettes, alcohol, and then marijuana.
Can I share my experience with that? Sure. What the studies have shown is that people that smoke marijuana smokers, for example, when I became, I would say, a marijuana smoker, because I smoked my first joint at 11, I 61 now, that's 5 decades ago, back at Yara, the time it was called Yara South. And I found that the marijuana experience, and this is from personal experience and from studies, is that a person that smokes marijuana tend to smoke less when they get older. I know most of my friends when I grew up, they smoke weed. For example, Jeremy, we used to smoke them big Rasta spliff back then. I smoke less, I know he smoked less, and most people that I have known, most of my friends when used to smoke weed back then, they don't smoke again.
That's right.
And most, where you find a marijuana a culture, like for example, when you go to Humboldt County, California, the people there in Humboldt County, they call it the Emerald Triangle or the Green Triangle, and that was the first place where they had a university where you could get a license to grow 500 pounds of marijuana for research to make the candies. That's where it's all started. I've seen a person showed me a paper that they had a permission from the sheriff. That'd be like if you get it from the commissioner, where they were allowed to grow 99 trees, have 99 trees in their yard and possession of 5 kilograms. They had a law, and the trees were tagged, and they come in and the county taxi and come in and make sure you don't have over 99 trees and your trees are registered. And in this community, you find it was peaceful. There was no violence. It's a whole different lifestyle. Now on the south side, we have a different makeup, and I need to add something to him. He need to look into this. The tobacco, what he didn't mention, he was mentioning a different range of drugs. Cocaine, crack cocaine, is no longer prevalent in the society. The crack generation burnt out, smoked out, right? But the new drug, and we're not addressing it, is the frontal, which is the tobacco that the cigar comes in. And what the youths are doing, they are taking off the tobacco. Actually, they used to take it out. Now then they bring it by the tons from Guatemala. And the Chinese are selling out. The Chinese are selling us. So Guatemala, they don't have serious number. They buy the frontal. So when they do now, they take the tobacco leaf, which has in over 4,000 poison, and they put the weed in there. And after a couple of months, they put the weed in at the front door and they broke up more front end of the weed. So the marijuana is a vehicle for the tobacco. So you'll find this is the first time in the history of marijuana smoking since 5,000 years ago. That is when Enoch walked with God. That we are putting marijuana and tobacco together. Go ahead.
No, I want to be very clear because, you know, I think it's important that we have this conversation also providing as much facts as possible. Marijuana is a drug. Tobacco or nicotine is a drug. Alcohol is a drug. And each possesses negative side effects that concern society. The difference is that alcohol and tobacco are legal, and at this point, marijuana is only decriminalized for a small portion. And we'll also talk about what the implications are.
There is another difference.
Yeah.
Marijuana is a non-narcotic drug. The last time the U.S. donated vehicles and boats to us, they specifically mentioned this is for the fight against narcotics. We need a paradigm shift has taken place.
But yes, so I want to talk about, and that is what the conversation has been from those who are criticizing this particular move. Did we balance sufficient the risks, looking at the risks? Did we balance it out properly to ensure that we aren't increasing potential risks?
Let me share this, Marlene. And you know, I know people have sentimental values, and I have my own sentiments.
Yeah.
But here it's looking at data, and I for a little bit I've been looking at research coming out from some of the countries that have a longer history than us. There's some good things and bad things. We can't be naive as today. Like every drug, there are consequences, there are side effects. It's just a matter, even the ones you get from the doctor, it's just a matter of if the good will outweigh the bad. But drugs have side effects. There's none without any side effects. But let us put that aside a little bit. Back in the 40s, 50s, 60s, marijuana was known as a ghetto drug. Like most drugs, it's used to medicate. The literature coming out then was people were so living in so much poverty and dire desperation that the marijuana medicated their disillusion with a society and where they live. Now, I don't know what side effect is good or bad. If you think about this. Now, among marijuana users, we don't need to be naive. There is tons of literature to tell you the impact on young people, older people, and frequency of use. It's like everything. You use a lot, something will happen. Clearly, and this can be disputed because research can dispute anything, but what good medical journals have documented is that prolonged use of cannabis tends to create a lethargic. It tells you what we would interpret as a lazy kind of attitude in habitual long-term users. I won't tell you that that's good or bad. I'm just telling you what the literature says. Does everybody need to be ambitious and greedy and stuff? I don't know. Some of these people, is that a side effect? How is that different? If I am to that point, if I am living in that condition, if I don't have lots of ambition to own 100 acres of land, how is that so bad versus the greedy ones that want 2,000 acres of land? Who am I to suggest? What it boils down to is also the impact on society. The number of people that use marijuana and is very small. The number of people, I mean, and this is coming out from medical journals, the impact on health as a result of cigarette use opaques or dominates every known drug as we know it, licit or illicit. Cigarette use has a more damning effect on the user than any other drug, and that's credible research has shown this.
Killed over a billion people in the last century.
The reality is economics. The reality is policies, I mean, like, what you think, morality kinds of things. I like to think that we are moving into the directions of freedom, personal choice, personal responsibilities. This is not to see if you're under the influence of anything. Actually, there are some medical, some prescriptions given that tell you don't drive. So if you drink it and you drive and you hurt somebody, then you need to become responsible. It's one of those things. So along with the choice to do drugs, then there are consequences for those behaviors that sometimes we think everybody will become drug addict or things like that. That's not necessarily true.
I think why there's a lot of opposition to marijuana, I think is also the perception of how it's portrayed on TV. I was watching your little show here and so on.
So
when you look at alcohol, or when they used to allow advertisements for tobacco, it was people having fun, you know, and doing sports and with pretty girls, ideal social things, sports and all of that. When they show you marijuana, they take you into the ghetto and they show you a black guy, they roll up thing in a fonto leaf or something, they smoke it, and in the background, everything is dilapidated. So they give you this impression that marijuana is bad. You know?
Let me make the statement. They made a movie when they, if you could recall right now, when you look at the old black and white movies, right? Humphrey Bogart and Lauren Bacall and those guys, James Cagney. Everybody they smoke cigarette, right? Everybody they blow cigarette in one another foot. Simultaneously, they made one movie called Reefer Madness, where they're showing people smoke weed and they jump out the window and they go on crazy. And this was a conspiracy by a guy by the name of Harry Azinger, who started the war on drugs. And that's why I believe that everybody who have any concern should read this book called Chasing the Scream, which gives you a very insight into, it says the first and last day of the drug war. All right, I spoke to the Attorney General who made the law. He said he read it twice. Okay, and I would like to do some quotes from this to give us a better understanding of what has been found recently. For example, the UN drug control law. I'm just quoting expert. I kept returning to the UN pledge to build a drug-free world. There was one fact above all others that I kept placing next to it in my mind. It is a fact that seems to, at first glance, both obvious and instinctively wrong. Only 10% of drug users have a problem with their substance. Some 90% of people who use a drug, the overwhelming majority, are not harmed by it. Just like people who drink, and everybody will drink alcohol, they take only drink and say, but you know, skip and schedule, you know, the long panny. You know, the front of the bar, the man with a white beard and white hair, the big $1 for buy one drink. All right, so this is a misperception, I should say, the optics. So this figure comes not from a pro-legalization group, but rather from the United Nations Office on Drug Control, the global coordinator of the drug war. Even William Bennett, the most aggressive drug czar in US history, admits non-addict users still comprise the vast bulk of our drug-involved population.
I just want to
let me jump in here because I know where.
Hold on, make up one sentence. One sentence. It isn't the drug that causes the harmful behavior; it's the environment. Addiction isn't a disease. Addiction is an adoption. It's not you; it's the cage you live in. Southside Belize. Go ahead, my dear.
Okay. Now I was gonna say I mean addiction has been defined as a disease. That's one perspective. And I don't want to divert from that because there are people who really struggle with addiction.
Yeah, but they're talking about all drugs.
I know.
Marijuana.
So I just want to bring in very clearly here what your position is. Let's just clearly state. Are we moving in the right direction from your perspective? You've worked with the committee itself, Pulu, you've been an advocate. Fermin, you've been researching drug use, specifically among young people. Are we moving in the right direction by now decriminalizing the small quantity of marijuana? Let's start on this.
Marlene, I have to affirm, and I'm completely convinced because of the data I've seen. The policy direction is a good one. But I've lived and worked and been in the social sector a long time to know that there is some areas for improvement. For example, the amendment speaks to service providers, counseling, whatever it is. The reality is we do not have the capacity. Where will we send them? I am for small steps in those directions because a lot of people will benefit positively from that. But clearly, I think we don't need to be naive. I think there is the biggest percentage of people don't do any kind of drugs. They don't do marijuana. And we need to educate people on choices. I am for the direction. I think there's some room to improve certain things. For example, I would like
perhaps a commitment to investment in drug rehabilitation programs.
Well, one of the things is this: we have people doing. I mean, if I will own 10 grams, I'm not planting this home.
Yeah.
I would like to see some steps being taken to regulate the production, because it does several things. You don't have tainted drugs, you have good quality substance, and you can have an opportunity to legitimize the work of people doing this. Yeah. My guess is that as this goes through, the who is who will take up that business.
Well, here's the argument. If I could interject here as well. Here is the argument, because I've given this quite some thought before. If we were to ever move in the direction of legalization, for instance, because ultimately this is where this is going, when we look at the present system of politics in Belize, and I'm not saying party politics per se, I'm just looking at the idea of the interaction between various groups in respect of this particular issue. When we reach that point, it will, to me, it'll be, okay, this group of people will be the ones who will get the contract to grow.
The best farmers, they're already doing it.
This group of people will be the ones who get the license to retail and wholesale.
Or export.
Or export, for that matter. But the end result is it will box out the very same people
who are doing it right now.
Exactly.
That's what I'm saying.
That's what Fermin is saying.
Yeah.
Let's continue with your positions. So, Jeremy, you were a part of the committee, one would assume.
Well, my take on the whole marijuana situation is that, you know what, tobacco, alcohol, and marijuana, if abused, they all have their very negative effects. Okay. Me personally, I don't like alcohol, and I think that the only reason we take cigarettes, marijuana, and alcohol is at the end of the day to relax, to chill, to enjoy life, and so on. Some take it too far, they take too much, and then there's the big negative effects. I don't like alcohol, okay? But I like the feeling that marijuana gives me. Alcohol doesn't do anything for me. You know, I drink a few and then I don't feel good. My body rejects it. But for me to enjoy alcohol, and it's not the reason why I smoked marijuana, but I find out if I take a smoke, I can nurse the high that I have with alcohol. I don't get drunk, I get happy, I have a great time, and so on.
The brain
so it's not fair for somebody like me, while all of you all are enjoying yourselves drinking alcohol, which to me is far worse than marijuana. Why am I not allowed to take my little smoke? Because there's a danger of me being locked up for it. I like I said, they all have their bad effects, some more than others. But I can understand people are very frightened where it's going. They're going to think, oh, there are going to be all these weed heads now walking around and so on. I understand all of that. But, you know, responsibly taken, education, how you put it on the TV and so on and train people, I have no problem with it. I think that they should. I would have liked it to just gone to legalization. Pulu was very right. I smoked when I was 14. The two people that wanted me to smoke with them the first time are prominent people in Belize right now. Businessmen, successful, very rich.
Then I think that me.
You know, and a lot of my friends smoke. They don't smoke anymore. A lot of them never even picked it up. They don't like it. You know, they make fun of me. A lot of them make fun of me. Even the ones who used to smoke in those days make fun of me. I'm a weed head. You know, I somebody that don't function. I consider myself a very successful person. I'm well educated. I'm not the brightest person in the world, but that has nothing to do with marijuana. You know, I just happen to be who I am. So I just don't think that I should be chastised and not allowed to have my drug of choice.
Let me ask this question before we get to Pulu's take here. Let me ask this question. Present day, there are now various means of consuming marijuana. So you don't necessarily have to smoke marijuana anymore. I think
I know where you're going.
Good. Back then, the habit of choice, if I may, was to smoke it. And in smoking marijuana, you're told, well, that damages your brain cells, etc., etc.
Well, your lungs.
It's the opposite.
Your lungs and your brain cells, we were told, right? No, because you're saying, well, growing up, I was taught that it damages your brain cell. We were taught that. Good. But so my thing here is, if you were smoking heavily back then when you were younger, and now that you're older, you're kind of removing or withdrawing gradually, it kind of represents a peak. So you're building your way up. Maybe in your 30s or so, that's where you're smoking the most amount of marijuana.
It's the environment.
And then when you come down off of it, you would have already damaged enough of your brain cell that you, in my opinion, you wouldn't be as functional as you ought to be from a mental perspective. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, I think you're wrong because the data shows physiology. We at our peak, we reach our peak at different ages, physical strength, mental capacity. And the truth is our physical strength starts to wane right at the middle of 25, right 20. But then your mental capacity isn't at its best until way long after. And it talks about experience, maturity, life. It's just nature. And of course, without doing anything, there is a certain amount of brain function that gets lost with time. It has nothing to do with drug use, although we must be clear that drugs can impair and decay. That's a fact. We don't want to pretend it doesn't happen. But how much does it mean that maybe people that use could have been? I don't know. We don't know. But you know what? There is evidence there, and that's where we want to be able to share what's factual.
Yeah. There
are people that have these whatever, and that's fine. That's nostalgic and what's not. And it's like everything, you know. We have a peak, then we go down. It's life. It's how it is. But we have been so deserved because of bad policies, mainly coming out from the United States. War on drugs, it's a failed policy. I don't know that we know the answers yet, but can we do better? Of course we can. And this is one thing. It's not the solution to everything, you know. I want us to be clear. Sometimes in trying to resolve things, we create other little problems. But there is need for vigilance, there is need for monitoring. It's just not a blanket thing. This shouldn't be a political thing.
Yeah.
It should be a social response to meeting the needs of that benefit us as a society.
Now, should there be an education process in terms of benefits and side effects? Because I want to give the clear example of tobacco. You know, you are right. Once upon a time, it was glorified. It was the models, the wealthy, the famous. Now, you know, they can't, cigarette companies can't even choose the color of the box they use. They've been designated what they call the ugliest color in the world, a brown, to be used as the packaging. The warnings are printed on the boxes. In alcohol, we don't get as many warnings. There is some education process. So is it that we perhaps need to educate people? And I think we have to be honest. There will be good effects and there will be bad effects, and there will be people who use and there will be people who misuse as well.
Could you give me a couple of minutes? Let me take you through an education process. You might not realize this, but over 4 decades ago, I did my paper coming out of college on the effects of drugs, especially alcohol, compared to marijuana and your perception when driving. Because this was a concern of the advocates against marijuana. And I want them to let them know the number was 100 for somebody that was normal. Somebody under the influence of alcohol, their coherency was like 64%. The person under marijuana was like 94. It was a difference between like A and A+. So it wasn't that much difference. And the professor from the University of Tennessee told me, said, just like he did, said, she don't mess with no drugs. This was 5 years ago, but if she did any, she would do marijuana. That lit a bulb in my brain, because even using marijuana, I always thought I was doing something wrong. I was using it, but it was going to kill me, like you said. Now, they did what they call an LD50 test. All right, lethal dosage 50 test. And based on that test, they found out that for marijuana to kill you, you'd have to smoke, for marijuana to become toxic, you'd have to smoke 1,500 pounds within 15 minutes, based on this LD50 test. Now, to go in further, has anyone ever died from smoking marijuana? No. American Judge Francis Young studied all the evidence in 1998 and ruled that marijuana is far safer than many foods we commonly consume. The U.S. federal agency, the National Institute of Drug Abuse, NIDA, says that that deaths per year from legal substances are far more significant than are as follows. Tobacco, 40,000 to 395 deaths per year. That is only in the United States. It killed studies show it killed over 1 billion people in the last century, and will kill over 2 billion in this century, mostly in Caribbean countries. Prescription drugs overdose, pills prescribed by a doctor, 14,000 to 27,000. Alcohol, not including accidents, 125,000 per year. Yeah. Marijuana,
it's not even
zero, zero. Yeah. I smoke, I've had a lot of friends, I've never been to a funeral because they died from marijuana. No. Sugar, diabetes, high blood pressure, AIDS, Southside murders, poverty, crooked politicians, hurricanes, global warming, the GSU, Guatemala, child molestation are far more damaging and bigger concern in our country than marijuana should be.
No, I hear the points that you're making. That's a pretty smart list that you got there too. But I want to say, you know, I think part of the challenge is when the message is communicated that marijuana is better than alcohol or tobacco, there are many people who already believe that alcohol and tobacco are bad. So your argument really isn't as strong as you'd like it to be.
Let me make it strong.
But let me just say this: is it perhaps a good time for us to focus only on marijuana instead of continuously doing the comparative analysis? Because if your analysis is true, then maybe we need to keep banning marijuana and ban the other two as well.
No, let me give you, because this has been the biggest question of the opponents, and they keep throwing this word out there. Tetrahydrocannabinol, you think it's THC, yeah, you think it's the devil. So let me give you a description of THC from off the internet, okay? THC, tetrahydrocannabinol. Out of the 85 plus individual cannabinoids found in marijuana, only one of them produces powerful, intoxicating, psychoactive effects.
Yeah.
All right? My pal, THC. But why? We tell, it is simple. The shape.
Yeah.
The shape. THC just happened to have the right molecular structures to fit into special binding sites on cells throughout the body. You were talking about destroying cells. This is the way this do to cells now. These cell sites are called cannabinoid receptors, and each act as a part of the endocannabinoid system. The ECS is a cell receptor network that regulates a variety of bodily function. It helps maintain homeostasis, which is homeostasis, sorry. See right there, which is a Dinbar word for optimal balance or harmony.
Yeah.
Rastaman say, I and I.
But let's not get too technical
THC ability
here,
to fight tumors is incredible. Let me give you what all it's good for.
Yeah.
Here is a basic condition helped by THC. ADHD, Alzheimer's disease, arthritis, autism, cancer including brain, breast, pediatric cancer, skin cancer and more. Chronic and neuropathic pain, glaucoma, hepatitis, insomnia, lupus, multiple sclerosis, stroke, disease.
Let me just get in here because I want to say one thing. I hear what you're saying, and I think if anybody goes on the internet, you'll find both the sites that will promote and those that will say that it's bad.
This is not promotion.
I want to say something very clearly because to our viewers especially, last week, before we knew this was going to the House on Friday, and I should say the Pharmacy Association of Belize allowed for a space of a doctoral pharmacology student who is also a professor at the University of Belize who did a study on young people's perception of risks when it comes to marijuana use. Now, one of the things that he was clearly communicating on the show, which is why I think it's important that we bring it up, is that science proves that depending on the THC, you're right, THC is important in the conversation, THC level. And there are two different forms of marijuana. There's the sativa and the indica, and one has a higher, is more potent than the other.
There's a sativa, right? And the indica.
Yeah.
The indica is an upper, there's one that puts you...
Yeah, one's more potent than the other. And so that's what I was going to say. The research shows that it can lead to increasing anxiety and paranoia. Now his recommendation is, I'm only giving that as the background, he is currently in Jamaica and looking at how Jamaica is making strides in specifically moving towards medicinal marijuana use and being leaders in studying and with the intent of hopefully producing. And so his final recommendation was simply, it was too dangerous for recreational use, but we should explore medicinal use.
Well, let me share this, Marlene. There is no disputing that there are some health benefits. There has always been. Some people have always known this. People that use it, it does something to them.
Yeah.
I can tell you I don't smoke cigarettes or marijuana. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who does or who doesn't. From a purely social standpoint and living in a democratic country, we have stigmatized certain things based on making it illegal. No, I am not one to decide on which choice is the best choice. I enjoy the freedoms in a free society. I can't pretend or even want for things to be banned. Lots of times we ban. Well, we aren't going in that direction. We're going in a direction where we have more choice. And I think it's only fair and balanced. It was purely business and economics that allows some drugs that are harmful to be legalized and others not to, part because of ignorance. I think the amount of people that do use marijuana and the effects, yes, it's there. Is it a big concern? I think we have big fish to fry. We have big issues that need to be need to be right at the forefront of every Belizean. Marijuana decriminalization should never be one of those. It's like you're picking the crana to make a big stew. You know, there's big issues there. That is not to undermine or negate or pretend that there is nothing wrong. I think it's about education, making informed choices, and it's an individual choice.
Now, just to be clear, this study, as I was pointing out, is also a part of a larger study for Central America. And for viewers who are aware, or for those who aren't, I should say, Central America as a region has been looking towards decriminalization or legalization of marijuana for quite some time. Being countries that the drugs would transit through to the United States, it has been something that SICA has been discussing and OAS has been discussing for quite some time. Now, some countries are still at the point of doing their research, as Belize is. Some are making first steps. I think for the wider public, for the people who have never used marijuana, for the people who grew up in school hearing marijuana is bad, marijuana is a drug, it is a paradigm shift for them to now see it being decriminalized, right? So let's take the opportunity, and I appreciate what you were saying, Pulu, in terms of educating people from what you know to be the use and the effects, and especially, let's not forget the purpose behind it, which was we have young men whose life have been severely affected by their choice to use a drug that is of lesser consequence than the legal ones. Yeah. So let's take that opportunity here.
Opiates right now is the biggest concern in the drug fight. As a matter of fact, I heard Donald Trump he mentioned it at least a dozen times. Actually, it was 4 times because he said opiates. So it's like very, very good. Kind of his style.
He speaks in superlatives.
Yeah, but that is the biggest concern. Actually, what they are doing, they are replacing every single pharmaceutical drugs today with marijuana. You had one woman who take like 45 different medication and then get one marijuana shake with prescribed with all the different stuff, and she's good to go. They had one kid when they have seizures, what we call fits, 300 seizures a week, and they put them on the marijuana, not the THC, the cannabis, another type, another stuff. And they say in a couple of months he have stopped seizure, he starts socializing, and he's a normal person again. Okay, so I'm saying the good, we are nitpicking at the side effects. I'm 61 and I feel good. You know what I'm saying? And when I used to play basketball, I used to work out 6 hours a day. You don't smoke no weed before you perform. That's something for after. Just like medication. You know, that's like when they tell you take their pills. A lot of the pills where you take from a doctor, you can't drive, drowsiness. Driving under the influence of marijuana is far safer than if you just come out and argument with your girlfriend or boyfriend and jump in and can't drive off.
I just wanted to clarify something. I'm not advocating, and I'm not telling people out there to go out there and smoke marijuana. I'm advocating that for some of us who do smoke, that we're not criminals. We're normal people who get a nice little high off of a little green leaf, makes us happy just like you all get from any other drug that you take. So I just wanted to clarify that because I'm not stupid. I realize that if you abuse anything, I'm diabetic. I abuse Coca-Cola. Well, okay, don't mention it. I abuse soft drinks. I abuse Ideal. I abuse ice cream. And now I have diabetes.
100 times worse.
Marijuana, if you're smoking 10 joints a day, you're going to run into problems. You're going to become dependent on it. And eventually you build up a tolerance for it, and then you're going to smoke more, and then you don't have the initiative. Just like if you took alcohol or whatever, you don't want to go to get up early, you don't want to go work, you just want to party. So yes, there is a side effect that if you abuse it. But there's a lot of us out here that are responsible people. I haven't smoked a joint in a year. My son doesn't smoke. And I used to educate him about marijuana, I educate him about alcohol, because I lived with an alcoholic and I know how destructive that is.
You never prefer him to smoke, right? Yeah, I prefer him to smoke, right?
Yes, but no, really, because we've had our personal experiences. And so we're just trying to say that you all are saying this, but you've never had a personal experience like me and Pulu. And we understand what it is about, and then but you're just trying to slam base this thing. You know?
And also speaking to the point that now you'll see people walking around smoking a joint in public. That is not a part of the law.
And I don't want that. And I don't want people coming to my cafe and lighting up us because the smell is offensive.
Let me make a good analogy, right? The sodomy law. Yes, the sodomy law. A lot of people don't realize the sodomy law also benefits people who are not homosexual because it includes oral sex and
anything outside of what is deemed normal.
What is deemed normal, which today is abnormal, by the way. So anyway, I left that one there. But the homosexual law, it was 10 years if you got caught performing that, and it was never enforced. Like CB had, who is on the board with you, and he's 90 years old and an advocate for legalization, and he no smoke. Right, with the Charles Bada, the building named after. But his take is that let's do it like they do it in India and Pakistan, where the law is there, but it is not enforced. You know what? Marijuana in the streets are a big hustle who in the streets. Like police come bust people and leave $50 weed, but because they don't that jail, they pay $10,000 and $50 a month, and so they give the police one leave $400 for no go because they go in the jail. So we need I create one lot of things. No, and that's where my advocacy come in. My advocacy, as quiet as it kept, it's not. I'm not advocating for smokers or for the businessman. I'm advocating for the children who lives in these dilapidated Southside homes behind these zinc fence where the F word is said over 100 times a day, and 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, you have police go kick down their door with big gun in the dark, go try to bust somebody with $30 or $50 worth of marijuana, and then down the big dollar. And one child, when you see somebody down gun on television, he kills. So when you wake up out of your sleep, then kids traumatized for life. I have kids 8, 9, 10 where I carry them out to hang out. Then they piss the bed, and then the group wake up that night, they scream. You understand? So it doesn't. My advocacy, I'm more concerned about all the legalization and the decriminalization. My thing is the preamble that says the punishment should fit the crime. How in the world, for sake of $30 worth of weed, you want to send one man or a woman to jail for 10 years and get for 3 years and charge them $10,000 and left 3, 4, 5 picnic in our belly? We need for monitor. If you send a man to jail, you better make sure that you take care of that family. And the money you pay for mine in a jail, in the hustle that for trying.
Just one quick thing. The recommendations that we made after our consultations with everybody, the government has put all of them in the bill and added on 2 more things with, I believe, the legalization of medicinal marijuana and the industrial hemp. So they added on those 2.
And I appreciate you speaking to that, because we didn't get into the details of the law itself, but there are, drug trafficking.
There's going to be 2 more hearings and we can educate ourselves more, because I'll be quite honest, I only got this on Friday and I'm a very busy person and I started reading it all up yesterday.
And drug trafficking will still be a crime. I think one of the bigger questions people have is, if 10 grams is legal, what happens to the person who's selling the 10 grams?
Well, 10 grams is not legal.
Well, is no longer a criminal
we got to really
offense.
Enforce that it's not legal. It's not legal.
It
just means that if you get caught with that 10 grams and less, you're not going to go through the process that you're going through right now.
And if I'm caught with the 10 grams and I'm selling it, these are questions that I think a lot of people will need answers to, and absolute clarification. And I still go back to the point, Jeremy, ultimately, what you would have preferred to see personally was to move directly towards legalization.
And a lot of that's going to be very offensive to a lot of people and so on, but that's just my opinion.
Studies all over the world show that where they legalized marijuana, the crime dropped, the economy went up, they used the money for education.
And you know what America is doing? America is forcing all of us to stop it. And they in the background, they're going to get the jump on everybody else in the world.
It's been the #1 cash crop in the United States for over a decade.
I gotta say this though, part of the question, and maybe Fermin brought it up, or perhaps it was the pharmacology student, but ultimately, if there will be money made from it, the question is, much like the environmental sector says the environmental tax should go towards the environment, what happens if there's additional revenue that comes in from something like marijuana? Where will it go?
It should go to education.
Closing points. And let's leave people with a little bit of information so they can know, this is going to take place. I think we have to accept that much. There will be many naysayers. There will be many people putting forward information, some that will be truthful, some that will be not. And so I think we want to ensure that people are as educated as possible as they can on this. Sorry, from me.
I think we want to be clear that just being fearful. Society has always tried to find that boogeyman so that we can steer everybody clear from that. Well, those days, people want more evidence. And I think the benefits of going in this direction socially benefit us. Can it have some stuff? Yes. Can it have some bad effects? Yes. Not too long ago, we tried to move with the gang violence. We moved groups of these alleged gangbangers into different communities around the country. Has anybody evaluated what that may have caused? I am of the view that there were some very negative effects without addressing the real problem. At least this legislation, this amendment, will prevent young people and people that have small quantities from getting into the criminal justice system. Once you get in, you end up worse than when you get in. That in itself is worthwhile. I still think there is room for education, for sensitivity, and so. But the idea of scaring people into doing what's right, people need information. Let them be the ones to make those choices. I can't make it for you, for people who I care. I just want them to be informed and to make proper choices. That would be my comment.
Okay, well, I appreciate what this bill is doing. I have to admit that I am also selfish. While I appreciate that it will help the young people from not getting records and destroying their future, but also I'm also appreciate that for recreational smokers like me, that I will not be a criminal also, and it's my drug of my choice, and I should be allowed in this day and age that I should be allowed to smoke a little green leaf. It's just a little green leaf, and that's it.
Natural.
Yeah. And Pulu.
Marijuana, in its natural form, is one of the safest therapeutical active substances known to man. By any measure of rational analysis, cannabis can be safely used with a supervised routine of medical care. Now I'll quote from my favorite book, La Biblia, the Bible. And God said, and this is the first time he said it, in Genesis chapter 1. And God said, behold, stop, look, see, look, check this out. I have given you every herb bearing seed, which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree in which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed. To you it shall be for food. Genesis chapter 1, verse 29. Peace be with you, Belize. Peace be with you.
Good thing
every child must be fed, educated, and developed.
Thank you so much. This is just the start of the conversation. As you pointed out, we're going to dive into the legislation deeper and definitely keep people educated. But we appreciate this first conversation today. Thank you.
Okay. All right.
We're going to go ahead and take a break. When we come back, we'll be joined by meteorologist Frank Tench to talk about today's solar eclipse and, of course, the latest with Harvey's. Stay tuned.